And Dan does win the background contest of the day for matching with the morning music. That's awesome. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to day 4 of our Digital Credential Summit. We'll kind of run through our normal getting started slides. Here has been our week so far. The recordings are going up on the event website as they get beautified. So days 1 and 2 are already up. 3 will be coming soon. We've got our key topics. Here are your Zoom tips for the day. And as always, we'll have our conversation on the Slack, social media hashtag. Now we'll put the day 4 Q&A doc in the chat, because today we're talking about pilots, and you're going to actually get to hear from folks that have done this over this last semester, their successes, their pain points, and how they went about this whole crazy thing. So we've got 3 presentations, and I want to get started to give them plenty of time to do their thing. All right, so with that, we'll pass it over to Lisa and Julie from the libraries.
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to go ahead real quickly and share my screen so you can see our slides. So yes, thank you, and we're really excited to be here. So today we're going to be talking about our digital credential pilot that we ran through the library. So yeah, I'm Julie Allen. I'm the instructional designer with ASU Library, and with me is Lisa Kammerlocher, who I know you've heard from during this summit. She is the head of the e-learning and instruction division, so she's my boss. And Lisa, you want to say hi?
Hello.
Oh, okay.
Great to be here today. Thanks.
So for our agenda today, we're just going to basically touch on 3 main points, or 3 main themes, if you will. We're going to give you a background and an overview of our digital credential program, which actually goes back a while. We were using Credly before we used Badger. So we're going to give you kind of an overview of how that program came about. I'm going to talk about the process of creating the stackable credentials using Badger pathways. Because I think we might be one of the few pilots that is actually using pathways. And then we're going to kind of talk about like where we are now, because again, this is a pilot. And again, this is was an existing program that we then imported into Badger. So we're going to talk about where we are now and where we would like to go.
So this is Lisa. We started building badges 6 years ago. And Julie already said we had a WordPress site with issuances in Credly. We used a 90% score on a quiz as our evidence for issuance. The original program was built and maintained on a shoestring, and we built it, and amazingly, a lot of people came, and we had over 80,000 issuances, and we thank Alex Hallavey from New College, who was our inspiration for creating this program. So why did we create it? And so originally it was badges, and now it's a credentialing program. We needed to transition to sustainable practices for scaling information literacy. Doing face-to-face instruction all the time just wasn't feasible, especially in a rapidly growing institution. Badges provided a way to package and deliver content, and it gives students something, and it assures faculty that students are building the skills and knowledge they need to complete research assignments. This was true in composition, the emerging online programs. Our first disciplinary stacked credential was for psychology online to support the research methods course. And then campus immersion programs of various types across the university. Students were telling us, especially transfer students, and at West Campus, that was 65% of our students, they wish they had a way to gain information literacy skills and knowledge with, with ease. And when they first came, and we truly didn't have a way to provide that space, provide that in a consistent space. So now we have a division, and our emphasis is in promoting information literacy at scale, and tools like Badger integrated into Canvas, helps us with credentials shareable across programs and makes credentialing a far more sustainable proposition. So on the next slide, we're talking about, it's an equity slide of sorts, and we know that information literacy contributes to student success. That's evidenced from research in our field. Students come to us with a lot of variation in their preparation, and information literacy is a very powerful tool for helping create equity among our developing scholars here at ASU, and it really ties us to the ASU Charter. So the next slide is about information literacy, we consider information literacy to be thinking critically with information, and critical thinking is a constant of our information literacy instruction. I'm not going to read the description from the Association of Research Libraries, but just to say that this definition, I think, really echoes the meta-literacies that we were hearing about yesterday. And so as we go on, with Badger, our badging program is now a credentialing program, as I was saying, and it's really energized us, and we really see that more and more partnerships are possible, both internally and externally with staff development and for information literacy for students. For us, it's time to refocus our approach to content and assessment. Most of the content was developed out of older standards in our field, and we really need to review and revise our content through the lens of the newer Association of College Research Libraries framework for information literacy for higher education. There are 6 frames that you see on the slide. I'll just talk about one. Authority is constructed and contextual. And as you think about that, students at the first year might engage with that very differently than students who are seniors. First year students tend to have very basic approaches to evaluation, and we teach them that, but that shouldn't serve them the whole time they're here at ASU. That should evolve, and that should, as they gain context and they learn more about their discipline and the information in their discipline and the communication in that discipline, that's going to become a lot more complex approach to assessing authority. So I'm not going to read them all, just to say that we really hope by approaching these multidimensional and nuanced items in this framework, it's going to help us have newer conversations with instructors, instructional designers, and our library colleagues. And these frames, I think, can help us shape some meaningful content and assignments, and nudge us into creating deeper and richer learning experiences for our students. And finally, optimally, we would partner with academic programs to sequence and scaffold our instruction within and across disciplines to contribute to the students' universal learning strategies in the workplace and in their civic life, integrating and layering pedagogies such as critical information literacy will help us engage students to think beyond information uses within the classroom and to consider social, economic, and political dimensions of information and how that impacts the communities around us. So over to you, Julie.
Sure. Oh, thank you, Lisa. Yeah, now that Lisa's kind of given you an overview of the program, I'm going to talk a bit about the process of actually creating the credentials in Badger. So as Lisa mentioned, we have a competency-based model, which basically just means that, right, we identify those critical competencies, those critical outcomes and objectives, and use backwards design to design assessments that would assess the objectives or the outcomes at the appropriate level of rigor. We have stackable credentials, which I'm sure, that's probably, I would imagine, like a pretty common concept everybody's familiar, but just to kind of go over the nomenclature that Badger uses, they talk about child credential, which is child credentials, which are they're standalone credentials, but they kind of make that base layer. So, they're kind of like the foundational competencies or credentials, and then you have your parent credentials, which, and again, you can have more layers in this. That's one of the cool things about Pathways. You can have multiple layers of credentials leading up to that, the kind of that final ultimate credential. For right now, we have two levels. We have child credentials and we have parent credentials. So this slide is just an overview of our child credentials. And again, they are standalone credentials. So anybody can go in and just take one of these credentials and, and add that to their portfolio maybe come back and take another one later. We have 17 on such topics as APA citation style, background research, citing your sources, introduction to university research. And from there, we have several parent credentials. We've partnered with different academic units and programs to basically kind of remix our existing credentials. So for example, Fury, which is a partnership with the Fulton undergraduate, or the School of Engineering, pardon me, and Fury stands for the Fulton Undergraduate Research Initiative. So we partnered with them to remix 4 of our existing badges, and those are plagiarism awareness, citing your sources, research guidance, and developing a research or guiding question credential. So once students go through the process of earning these 4 credentials, they unlock this Fury badge, which then can be added to a portfolio or can be shared with a professor. So now I'd like to give you kind of an example of what this looks like in in Canvas and in Badger. So I'm going to show our APA citation style badge. So let me just pop this open real quick. Sign in. Oh, good, it's not making me dual authenticate, which is great. I'm going to put myself in the student view just to give you an idea of what this looks like. So, I mean, this anybody who's familiar with Canvas, this looks probably, I'm sure, very familiar. We have a landing page where we kind of give them some basic instructions on how to move through our course, trying to align with Quality Matter standards. So giving them an overview, giving them instructions on how to configure their badge, or basically just how to make sure that they're authenticated and everything's working correctly. And then from there, we do have a short syllabus that just kind of goes over like the basic grading procedures and this kind of thing. So we have a module overview, again, just kind of going over what they're going to learn, the module objectives, and then we've embedded, so generally speaking, we have a tutorial. So usually it's, going through a tutorial, and then the assessment is a quiz. And so the way we've set it up, it's a single module, and I think others have touched on this throughout the summit, but you would basically tie those credentials back to modules. So we have one module in our course because we have one badge. And so once they're done with the APA style assessment, and they've unlocked it at a 90%, they would automatically receive that badge. And let me see if this is going to work, since it might be registering me as a, okay, so yes, it is registering me as a student. So I have not earned this badge yet. So this is kind of how it looks. They come in here into the digital credentials. They see their badge. They can see that they have not unlocked it yet. And once they've gone through and they've unlocked everything, they would come back, give it a few minutes, and then this would register for them. So it's really seamless. I think it's we've been running this now since March 14th, I believe, was our hard launch. We had kind of a soft launch where we were transitioning from Credly to Badger, and we've only received a couple questions from students, and so it's been working really, really well. And my suspicion is that students are familiar with they're familiar with Canvas, so I would imagine it's probably like a pretty seamless transition for them. And then from there, I'm really quickly just going to show you how we, okay. Well, let me go ahead really quickly and open up my my master account here on the other window. And well, actually, maybe this might take me just a second here. My apologies. I thought that I was enrolled in this as a administrator, and I am not. So I just need to pop open really any of these courses. So let's see.
I think if you just go out of student view, you could see it.
Oh, you're right. I am in student view. Thank you. Here's their Explorer credential. So I'm just going to open that from the student perspective. So basically, I don't know if you noticed, there's a digital credentials link, and then there's also a pathways link. So that's kind of the difference. In order to go through a pathway, so again, this is a parent credential. So there's two, for Explorer, there's two of the child credentials they have to earn. So the first thing they need to do is go into pathways. And again, I'm in my administrator view, so it's going to look, oh, actually, no. Okay, so this is the first step. They come into the course. They need to enroll in the pathway. So this is going to allow them, again, to unlock that parent badge. So once they've done that, they'll see, okay, my Explorer badge, I have not earned that yet. And then they'll see the two child badges that they have to earn. And the way we've done it, and there are different ways to do this. And again, this was kind of came about through just going through the pilot and kind of learning more about pathways. But what we've done is we've embedded both of the child badges into this actual course shell. And again, there are other ways to do it. What we've kind of allowed them to do is, skip the module. So if they came into this already having earned research guidance, for example, they could just complete this first module, which would unlock this Introduction to ASU Library badge. And then once they've unlocked the two badges, they will have that parent badge. So that's just a really quick, kind of overview of how that looks in Canvas. But again, I was really pleased with how that, how that's been working. And so one thing we wanted to touch on too is, how we've kind of been communicating this, because again, we're a little bit different in the sense that this is a large scale program and anybody's, free to use this. And we do have some faculty who are assigning these badges to their students as assignments. So for now, how we've been kind of disseminating the links and disseminating the information, we have library guides, which you are probably familiar with. We've given a quick overview of, the fact that we were transitioning from Credly, and then we created a faculty and a student. They look very similar, but we have instructions for faculty on, basically how to assign these, how to integrate them into Canvas. And by integration, they are just self-enroll Canvas links. So basically, faculty just need to provide that link to students. And then we have a separate tab where we've provided all the links for our different badges, the child and parent badges. So that's just kind of how we've been handling it. We are in the process of revising our tutorial page on our website to reflect our digital credential system. So that's just a really quick overview of kind of what things look like in Badger. And the process of setting it up. But we just wanted to talk really quickly, and I know we're getting close to our 20 minutes here, but just where we are now and again where we want to go. Right now, we launched this in March, and so we've had over 1,800 issuances of credentials as of yesterday. I pulled this number yesterday, so it's been a pretty I think a pretty robust, considering it was essentially Spring B. And so that's where we are now. Where we want to go, again, as Lisa mentioned, to better align with the Association of College and Research Libraries, their framework. We are looking into how do we more authentically assess, how do we provide them, how do we provide them a sort of a more realistic way to apply their knowledge. Right now, we have tutorials and we are revising those. We're using RISE, so we are trying to embed more scenario-based learning to give them a authentic environment in which they can actually apply their knowledge. And for now too, most of our objectives are written at the recall level, the bottom two levels of Bloom's taxonomy, recall and understand. And we'd really like to get them again up into that application level. So that is where we're going. We are really looking into, building more scenario-based learning, looking into, potentially maybe building some SCORM packages, maybe looking into using Storyline to build, again, like maybe some branching scenarios, and just finding different ways of, kind of getting away, because we're a large scale. We have a lot of different programs that are using our badges, and we are using right now, they do have to be to scale. They have to be, automatically assessed, or I should say it can't require a human being to look at the assessments and to grade. So we're looking at ways to kind of unlock the power of scenarios and some different e-learning tools to hopefully kind of get away from the objective question assessments. And again, continuing to scale. So we are looking to, again, increase the partnerships that we have, looking to add to our collection of digital credentials. And, again, really looking to, continue to scale up our online offerings to meet everybody's needs, to make sure that we are providing information at the point of need for our students, regardless of where they're located.
That was fantastic, you guys. Oh, was that Julie?
Oh, I was just going to ask if there were any questions, or are we holding questions for the end?
Nope, we're going to hop into some questions. Are you ready?
Okay, I'm ready.
Right.
I'm sure.
So with the pathways in Canvas, does it detect which badges students already have if they come in and they already have one? That's on
It
the
does.
pathway?
Yes, so there's a key that, and that's why we ended up building it the way that we did. And we may end up revising that because we've learned some additional information about Badger and the way it works. So basically, students do need to enroll in that pathway. That's the critical thing that we found. Otherwise, if they don't enroll in that pathway, they can earn, let's say there's 4 child badges to unlock the parent badge. If they don't enroll in the pathway, it won't give them that parent badge, even if they have earned all the child badges. But there is a key that Pathways provides to whoever's issuing the credentials, and that key is what unlocks the pathway. So it's just figuring out a way to allow students to enroll in that pathway, if that makes sense. So I know we had chatted at some point about potentially maybe creating like a landing page on our ASU library website that has the enrollment keys for all the different pathways, so that would allow them to enroll in the pathway, and then instead of having like one course that has all the different child credentials, they would actually just enroll in the child credential. Because right now we've kind of duplicated is what we've done. So like Fury, for example, we have those 4 badges. Those 4 badges live independently in their own Canvas self-enroll courses, and then those 4 badges then also live in the Fury Canvas shell. And that's fine, I think. In some ways, it's actually kind of nice because students go in and everything's self-contained in that course. But then, of course, if we make changes to any of the child credentials, then you're talking about like duplicating. So it's kind of like pluses and minuses to the different systems, if that makes sense. So we're kind of looking at how we might optimize that for not only for ourselves, but for students and faculty as well.
That makes sense. And yeah, I mean, we're all piloting here, trying to find the best way.
Yeah.
And if someone wanted to have, like, Caroline noted that she has a pathway similar to the Fury one. How do folks get in touch with you if they want a pathway for their program?
Oh, yeah. So we were actually kind of chatting about that yesterday. Lisa and I were. Please feel free to reach out to me. I'll post my, it's julie.allen1, because there's another Julie Allen somewhere, and I wasn't very creative when I created my alias. So I'll pop my email into the chat. But please feel free to reach out to us. We are more than happy to talk about more in depth. That was a very, very quick introduction to to pathways, so we are more than happy to sit down with anybody who has questions and go through that. And even Lisa and I were chatting about possibly maybe doing like a webinar if there's enough interest to really go into the ins and outs of pathways. So But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and just pop that into the chat, my email into the chat. So yes, please do feel free to get a hold of me.
Great. And one last question, and we can also put questions in the Q&A doc, and Julie can get back to you too. So instructors, for faculty, they send their students, the students self-enroll with you. What's the best way for the faculty to find out if the students have earned their credential?
So right now, what we're basically recommending is that, when students complete a credential, they can download a certificate, and Badger also sends them an email saying, congratulations, you earned this credential. So basically, students could upload a PDF of either the certificate or there is an embed, there's an embed code that Badger kicks out. I think it also kicks out a link, if I recall, that has the student's name. So, but basically, the instructor would set up a Dropbox and would ask students to submit proof that they completed the badge. That's what we're at right now. Ideally, I think where we'd like to get would be to a point where that would be seamlessly handled, that there would be some way for faculty to set up. One thing that faculty member could do is create their own pathway. And we think we haven't tested it, so we would need to test it to make sure. But in theory, I think a faculty member could create their own badge, and that would be a parent badge. And then they could make our badges, the child badges, to their own individual badge. And I think that would feed the grade in, once it's unlocked, the faculty member's parent badge, that Canvas would recognize, okay, it's unlocked and here's your 10 points. But again, the caveat to that is we would need to test it just to make sure that would work. But that would be a way, because we know that's really the most ideal way for this to work, would be that faculty assign the badge, and that once they've earned the badge, those points are just pushed into the Canvas Grade Center.
I think that makes a lot of sense. I look forward to testing it, and I think that'll help your workload of having to create everyone's pathways, if they can take your children and make their own pathway.
That's very true. Yeah, and we know too, that's just we want this to be as seamless for students and faculty as possible. So,
well, thank you both so much for sharing. That was a fantastic presentation.
Well, thanks everyone. Thanks for having us.
And now we'll shift over to College of Health Solutions, Katrina and Mark Fogelson, literally sharing their screen.
Hello all. I'm going to get our slides up here. And here it comes. There we go. Go for it.
Okay, so today we're going to talk about the major pilot that we've done here at the College of Health Solutions. We actually created a pathway for a course, and eventually we're going to go ahead and create a pathway for the entire program for the Healthy Lifestyles Coaching Program. Oops, wrong button. There we go. So today what we're going to cover is who we are. We are actually tied the process of creating the pathway to the alignment process that we're currently doing at CHS. We're going to look at pathways. We saw a little bit just now, and we're going to talk about measurable skills. We're going to be talking about the course itself, and then we're going to talk about the single thread that we have created from ASU goals all the way down to a course. So who are we?
So for those of you who are unfamiliar with our fantastic and amazing College of Health Solutions, we have 58 programs across both undergraduate and graduate degrees, about 160 instructors, about 450 courses with 1,800 total sections, and approximately 6,000 students. So we're a mid-sized college, but we're mighty for our size.
And we're both instructional designers for the College of Health Solutions. I focus on special projects, and one of them being the Badger pilots, among several other things. So.
And I am Mark Fogelson. Among my other duties, I have been identified as the coordinator for our nascent program alignment process. And with that said, perfect segue. I noticed that many of the people in the presentation today here as participants are probably very familiar with assessment plans, but I couldn't continue on with a conversation about alignment without discussing what an assessment plan is for those of you who are a little bit more unfamiliar. So this slide is Assessment Plans 101. And I can't talk about assessment plans without mentioning our good friends, the University Office of Evaluation and Educational Effectiveness, known amongst friends as the UOEEE, who, among the many great things that they do for the university, assist and provide guidance on programmatic assessment plans across the university. Now, although an assessment plan for a given degree program is made up of multiple layers, the three primary ones are the programmatic outcomes, and then the concepts and competencies, and the measures and performance criteria. The programmatic goals give an overall gist of what it is that the program is attempting to achieve. The programs go into quite a bit more detail, and this could be 2, 3, or many that explain what exactly the student is going to be graduating with, what they can expect to achieve. And the measures and performance criteria are giving you the both the assessments as well as the measures or the thresholds to identify whether or not students have achieved the mastery they need. Now, with that said, the competencies, going back, and you see that I've bolded it here in this taxonomy, is what we're going to be focusing on, because this is not only how we have successfully achieved alignment across programs and within programs, but also how we integrated the concept of badger and badging. To quote from the UOEE's handbook, competencies cover the skills, tools, and operational knowledge that students will draw upon in the successful execution of their outcome, and they're unique to the outcome. So that the competencies are a further level of detail that explain how that outcome is going to be achieved and what students can expect to take with them. Okay, so as I mentioned just briefly before, the alignment process is both intra and inter-program. With the intra-program portion is aligning the course objectives, all of the courses within a program's major map, to those programmatic outcomes that were identified above. The inter-program is between college programs. We're looking at all of those courses which are shared amongst the various programs within our college, and their alignment to the college level goals and values, which again, we'll get to in just a little bit. The graphic that you see on the right is a snippet of one of our program's IRMA maps. For those of you unfamiliar with the concept of IRMA, it allows for and guides the scaffolding of content throughout a program and courses. IRMA is an acronym standing for the various levels of mastery of that skill. I for introduction or introductory, R for reinforcement, M for mastery, and A for assessment mastery. And what this allows us to do is come up with a very clear map for each of the courses within our programs to see at what level they cover each of these skills. And so what you can see to the right is underneath the programmatic outcome, the very next line on that chart are measurable skills. We've taken those competencies and further delineated them, further defined them so that not only our instructors can identify whether or not it's covered, addressed within their courses, but students also, through student transparency, can see what it is that they can put in their kit bags going forward. For certified courses like Karen's, the HSC 440 and 441, these skills can align with the national certification requirements. For non-accredited programs, or non-certified programs rather, these skills, these measurable skills serve as touch points or reminders to the individual course leads what the focus is within the course in order to be sure that they remain in alignment with the programmatic goals. At the end of this process, or the last stage, is what we call gap analysis. And it's looking at this IRMA map and saying, do we have redundancy? Are there several courses that cover the same skill at the same level? Or perhaps even worse, is there a gap where we're jumping the scaffold from introduction straight into mastery? It's a very useful tool and intuitive, as you can see, it's a visual map. that allows the program directors to work with their course leads and curriculum committees to verify that all is in alignment. So what does this mean for the college? Well, every college has values, goals, what we call sometimes buckets. And these are career-oriented foci that define what the college's primary purpose or values are. Now, over time, as time progresses and programs age and they become legacy, it can be challenging to keep that identification between the programmatic outcomes and the college level values or buckets, whether or not that's happening effectively. So by using outcomes, if we were solely to use outcomes, they're a little broad, a little difficult to use for specifically defining those inherent abilities that are being provided and measured. So instead, what we're using are these measurable skills. They fill that gap and provide detailed, discrete packets of skills or tools that students can expect to have with them and carry forward into the marketplace. Now, this is observed at 3 levels, really, by the students through their individual courses, identification of the skills, and by acquisition of associated badges. It can be observed internally through the tracking of programmatic success in achieving their criteria from year to year. And at the collegiate level, as we just described, to determine whether or not these individual buckets have been filled and making requisite changes. What are some of those changes? Well, that could be to update an existing program, and maybe create new courses or new programs to help even out those buckets. So ultimately what we're doing is we're using this to identify common skills, this process, we're using it to identify common skills to use across all of our programs. That's a challenging process, by the way, to come up with a common nomenclature that can be used for those skills that are shared within the college. And then ultimately across the entire university and beyond in support of the 21st century learner. And we believe the badges can definitely serve as a vehicle to make that happen.
So let me go ahead and talk real fast about HSC 440, the pilot that we're doing. So it's taught by Karen Gregory Mikado, who's a health coach herself. She created this program to be part of the Healthy Lifestyles coaching program, or this course, I'm sorry, at the College of Health Solutions. This course helps students prepare for the National Health Coaching exam as they take HSC 440 and 441. And since this course is based on requirements and skills that are required by the National Certification Board for Health Coaches, there are approximately 45 skill sets that are covered in just this one course. So the competencies or measurable skills were further delineated when Karen worked with Mark, creating the IRMA map, or the program alignment process. So what's a pathway? I mean, we can go ahead and talk about a pathway real fast. You know, you've heard the term a little bit throughout this week. Also, the library, they talked about pathway as well. But it's a visual representation of a course. It's built upon credentials that have been created for the course. You can use a pathway to demonstrate those measurable skills, and it helps outline the steps that go through the course. So a traditional pathway would be this one here. You have your final badge, the culminating badge, which is for the course itself. Then you have a credential for each one of the modules, because that's how Badger and Canvas work together. One badge per module. But there's more to a module than just, you know, an assessment and a credential. There's skills, there are, you have your learning objectives, and that tells you the knowledge sets that you have and the concepts that you do, the tasks that you'll complete. And as I mentioned, you know, HSC, each module covers anywhere from 8 to 20 different skills or concepts. Next slide. So as I mentioned, that there is that limitation with Canvas and Badger Connection. As you see here, we've got all of the modules that are in the Canvas course. Then we've created a credential for each one of those modules, but we had to take it a step further. when Karen and I talked about her course, you know, in the light of this fact, there's so many wonderful skills that need to be represented in this upper level course. One of the options was to make a bunch of mini modules. So you would have basically a module for each skill set. So we're talking, you know, probably 20 different modules instead of having a module for each week. Then I mentioned, well, if we don't want to do that, which I understand you don't want to break up your content that way, we could go ahead and manually award each one of the credentials for each of the skills. But if you're talking 50 students and 45 different skills, that's going to be a rather daunting task. So let's go ahead and look at the anatomy of a credential. As you've seen throughout, you know, we know that there's metadata behind each credential. It tells you, gives you a description of the badge, what it takes to earn it, who has issued it. But we also discovered that you can add tags, which you see off onto the right side. So what we did is for a module credential is we went ahead and we added all those tags, all those skills that can be seen as evidence from the assessments that were part of Module 5. So, and then we decided to go ahead and look at measurable skills. So in HSC 440, we have about 8 or 9 what we call like a master skills, and then those are broken down into further bits. Karen had already sketched out each module for HSC 440 to show how the skills were covered. We then added those to the badges, as you see here, are seen previously with the tags. And then based on the module maps, we're able to we decided to make pathways for her course using these measurable skills. So when a student completes module 1, for instance, several items on that pathway will light up in a sense. Module 1 assessed concepts and skills that are part of the coaching structure, advanced communication skills, and facilitate behavior change skill trees. Those child badges of the parent, the final credential. And then those are broken into further children. As Julie talked about earlier, the child and parent credentials.
I think if you can do it for a course that has so many measurable skills in such a clear fashion, I think that speaks to the ease with which many other courses which have limited skills could be. Okay, and so that brings us to the name of this whole thing, which is a single thread. So taking what Katrina just talked about in my previous discussion of Assessment Plans 101 and how we're doing our programmatic alignment within the College of Health Solutions, we can identify that we've been successful when we can reach into a program and pull out a single thread between a course's assessment through all the layers of the taxonomy, all the way up to the ASU goals, as we mentioned before. If we can do that, if we can show a consistent thread unbroken from one point to the next, we know that we're in alignment all the way down to the individual courses, individual assessments within it. And what does this do for us? Well, it supports our overall consistency of effort across the programs, what I like to call no program left behind. Every program has a place within the college, every course has a place within the program, every assessment within the course.
Right.
And what this also does is it encourages a thoughtful identification of the marketable skills, what we're calling measurable skills. But let's be honest, what we're talking about is being transparent to the students in such a way that they recognize the fact that what they're learning in these individual courses are directly related to their careers. So not only do they get that extrinsic motivation of having the badge itself and the endorphins that can provide, but also they can add that to their, as has been discussed before and will continue throughout the rest of the presentations, add to their skill map that they can then take to a potential employer to prove what it is that they have in their kit bag, what tools and skills they have.
And as I mentioned earlier this week too, when you have those, when you have, you know, your transcript and then you have your credentials, those credentials are something that you can go ahead and you can show evidence. Right. This is what I did to earn this. This is why I know that I do have this communication skill, for instance.
Artifacts. And then lastly, as been discussed before, but it's a point that bears repeating, this ensures a consistent and strong alignment both within a program from course to course, from course objective to program outcomes, and then between all programs within a college, with our ultimate goal to align all of ASU's colleges and their programs so that we can see a single thread across the entire breadth.
Mm-hmm. So now we have a call to action for you.
We do.
So can you think of the skills, concepts, and abilities that are embedded in each one of your modules? And how would you map that?
That's an excellent question.
Yeah, I'd love to see how people go ahead and start changing the way they think about their courses. What are the skills that can be pulled out of my course that the student can go ahead and take forward with them?
It's a challenging process, but very worthwhile.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, guys.
That's it.
That was fantastic, you guys. Thank you so much. You guys have put so much work into that.
So much work into the pilot.
Oh, yeah.
Is that the arms of the person on the background make me look like I have antenna. That's interesting. My favorite Martian. Excellent.
I love that.
We're open to any questions that people might have. We covered a lot.
But we do know that we need to save some time for the next group.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of accolades.
Yay!
A lot of awesome work. Great job. Thank you.
Probably all our friends. We paid them to come. Okay.
Well, and I think you put a lot out there to give people a lot to think about with that call to action about how this looks like for them. And so I'm sure there will be a lot of questions in the future. Can people reach out to you?
Definitely.
Absolutely. These lessons have been hard earned and we'd love to share it.
Yep. Either Katrina.Fogelson@ASU or Mark.Fogelson@ASU.
It's a difficult path we've put you on, Padawan, but it's one that will make you better in the long run.
Yeah.
And it seems like it connects with a lot of the questions from yesterday about how can you take a bunch of little things and make them more important.
Right.
So that was awesome.
Thanks, guys.
So yeah, we'll keep it going. Thanks so much. And our next conversation is about faculty professional development. HIDA and EdPlus had two different approaches to how to digitally credential faculty professional development. So I'm going to turn it over to Kody and Tim. I don't know who's going to go first.
I don't know either. I'll go.
Go ahead, Kody.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Let me quickly share my screen here. For EdPlus and ASU Online, this is definitely a work in progress. But I thought that I would show you kind of how we're using achievements. And I think through some of this, I refer to them as achievements, badges, and digital credentials. So I kind of got them all covered there. But how we've been using them in the ASU Online Faculty Center. So to begin, the scope in which I work is usually for the fully online degree programs or those O courses. And so the ASU Online Faculty Center is housed in Canada. So I'm just going to walk through a little bit about what that entails. I also am including a couple links to request enrollment or self-enroll in the Faculty Center in case anyone was interested. It's originally been designed to support the faculty teaching one of the over 220 online degree programs that ASU provides. So a lot of the content and resources in there has been, kind of focused on the different services and resources that are available for faculty developing or teaching the fully online degree programs. However, about a month ago, I don't even know how long it's been, 5 weeks or so, we added another module that's on excellence in teaching remotely face-to-face courses. And so we kind of opened up the Faculty Center to be a little bit more available and helpful, hopefully, for all faculty or whomever's interested. So that's why I wanted to include these links here. And I can put them in the comment box or something later. You can email me if you don't have access to these. So anyway, so in the Faculty Center, there's really three main components. The first is an orientation module to ASU Online. And so we want faculty to kind of understand the different resources within EdPlus as well as just throughout the university that are available for faculty teaching online. When we created the Faculty Center, we were thinking, okay, faculty are very busy. They may not have a ton of time, but we want them to be able to quickly go somewhere and get access to those key resources and information that we have available. So within that orientation module, the intention is that within 30 minutes, you can go through this, know what's available, and then later as questions come up as you're teaching online, you can kind of return and go back into that orientation module. There's a lot in there, so a lot of times faculty spend more time than 30 minutes, but that's the intention. So inside this module, there's some survey like poll type questions, there's self-checks that are auto-graded, and then there's a reflection. And we have an achievement that's associated with this that I'll show you in a minute. So there's that orientation module. Then we have these discussion forums that were really just a place for faculty to share strategies or tips related to teaching online in some of the common topics that are of interest when you're teaching online. So these are available. And then the third part of the Faculty Center are these 10 Minutes for Excellence self-paced modules. And the idea is that in 10 minutes, faculty can learn about the current research and articles available on different best practices related to teaching online. So we have about, I think there's 14 or so different modules, and each one of these has an achievement associated with it. So this kind of shows you we have, I guess there's 17 badges here for each of those different modules of content. In order to earn the achievement, you need to complete the self-check activity and then submit a reflection. So again, a lot of them, they're really short. 10 minutes isn't a whole lot of time. And as we were putting this together, badges was kind of new. So we were like, okay, this kind of gives us an idea of how we might use it. I'm sure there's a lot more that can be done in the future, but we have different achievements for each of those. And then as faculty earn this, then it releases the achievement. This just kind of shows you what that ASU Online Orientation achievement looks like. And then same for those 10 Minutes for Excellence modules. Each one has a little achievement associated with it. And faculty have access to this leaderboard. So they're not able to see their names, but you can go in there and you notice they have these different aliases to be able to see where you're at versus other faculty. And there's about 3,000 people enrolled in this. The Faculty Center is really meant to be an on-demand resource. So faculty nobody has to go in and actually complete the modules, but if they do, then it will release these achievements. The other thing that we had to consider in this is that, usually in an online course, you complete module 1 and then move on to module 2 and module 3 and so on. But for the Faculty Center, with the different topics that we have in there, we really just wanted them to be able to go to the topics that interest them most. So if you have graded items and you have a grade center in Canvas, you can imagine with that many of modules and assignments, it would be really, who would want to go to the grade center and scroll up and down all of these different gradebook items? So we hid the grade center and really made it so just the Badger leaderboard and being able to see your achievements is the only way you can see whether you've completed something. And for our purposes, where it's really just kind of a small reward for completing a module, then this works pretty well for us, for our purposes. And then you can see some of the achievements. This element of being able to share it is very new, but we do have a few who have shared it to LinkedIn. So some people it motivates them, and others not as much, but it's definitely a carrot that we put out there. So in addition to the Faculty Center, there's lots of discussions and opportunities to further provide achievements. We could consider adding one to the participation that's within the Canvas discussion forums, or perhaps after they complete a series of the 10 Minutes for Excellence modules or complete all of the modules, perhaps there could be an achievement there that's earned. This isn't the only resource that ASU Online provides faculty teaching online. We also have other workshops and webinars, and so there's discussions on, how might we incentivize, faculty with different achievements in that area as well. And that is all I have. So anyone has any questions, please feel free to ask or post them in there or email me anytime. Thanks.
Thanks, Kody. We'll transition right over to Tim, and then we'll loop back around for all questions around faculty professional development.
Sounds good. So I'm Tim McKean. I'm with Herberger Online. Herberger Online services the online and hybrid course development needs for all of the schools within the Herberger Institute. So we deal with a lot of different subject matter. And one of the things that we believe at Herberger Online is that the best way to improve the quality of courses across that wide diversity of subject matters and at scale is through training the faculty themselves and through professional development. So professional development is one of our main pillars or buckets, as like was referred to earlier, that we focus our time on. So you might wonder why you would want to credential professional development. One of the big reasons, and a lot of the way that we use professional development is this idea of modeling. We do our professional development in Canvas because we want to model Canvas. We try to use best practices for video and for alignment and for other things in our professional development that we want to also model. So it would just make sense to use credentials that same way, that as we're giving faculty credentials, they're starting to get that experience of what they're for and what they're like, and hopefully modeling that idea of credentialing skills and credentialing components of your course. So that's one big part of it. It also, I think, helps to show, as Mark alluded to, that we see the training as valuable. If we're taking the time to give a credential for something, that's giving it a little bit more weight. Maybe it's just, like you said, a little bit of endorphins, but it's something, and it's something more than nothing. And anything we can do to kind of incentivize training or make it more fun or whatever is kind of an important part of that. And really what we think it's going to be important that faculty have quality training in specific areas like Canvas, Zoom, things like that. And having a way to mark that training has been completed somewhere is going to be important in reducing redundant trainings moving forward, especially in an organization as large as ASU. We've got so many silos, we've got so many parallel efforts going on that it's going to be valuable to know, I don't need to go through your Canvas training, I already went through this Canvas training. Or, just for our incoming faculty to know that they've gotten some training somewhere and have some link back to that to see what they did is going to be incredibly valuable as we continue to scale more and more faculty moving into Canvas, moving into synchronous online learning, moving into other tools that we're scaling out like Zoom or Yellowdig or things like that. So we think that infrastructure for cataloging, I hate to use the word tracking, but being able to know who's done what training is going to be important across units. And so that's the next stage is then that the credentials are going to have value across units. When someone does one of Kody's credentials, maybe now they don't need to do my training, or I can look at that and see what they've done and give them credit is the wrong word, but give them credit for that. And so it goes both ways, and we're hoping also that if people take some of our credentials that we're going to talk about next, that will bring value to their units, or that their directors and other people like that will give some kind of credence to that. So let's take a look directly here. I'll share. So what we've credentialed so far, our main pilot is this Canvas course called Canvas Foundations. And as you can see, it's currently it's a pathway with 6 badges. 6 modular badges, and 1 completion credential. Each credential is earned by completing a module. So you can see that we have all the different modules here. And in our training, they're completed by submitting an assignment, showing the application of learned knowledge, and completing a quiz. And then credentials are automatically awarded based on the completion of the module requirements. So in the module, when you're building your module, you set up requirements. You can see here where it says complete all items. And then once they've completed all the module requirements, that triggers the automatic issuance of the credential. Currently, we have 10 enrolled faculty members in this training, but currently 0 completions. So that's going to be interesting as far as a kind of analyze that a little bit and maybe try to get some more data about, you know, obviously there's interest in the training, and we saw a lot of interest, especially around March 16th. But yeah, like I said, as they get no completion. So is the information being valuable, but the badge just isn't worth enough to finish the assignment? Or, you know, what are all the ramifications and subtleties there? We're not yet, but that's definitely something we'll continue looking on. And I can provide a self-enroll link if anyone's interested in joining this training as well. And then the other tool that we've looked at is our course design tool. And we've also added some credentials to that as well. This is a tool that we use to guide faculty through the development process for an online or hybrid course. And this one is also a pathway with 5 modular credentials: an intro to online teaching, the planning phase, which is an alignment map of the curriculum, multimedia development, Canvas building, and then a QM review. And so they earn credentials for each of those steps along through the development process. And this is just one of the ways that we can use to help track our many developments that are kind of all moving in parallel, is by watching and seeing how they've earned their credentials. And then they earn a cumulative credential as well. And again, those are all linked to modules. And so as they complete the requirements each of the modules, then they're automatically issued their credential. So for example, again, complete all the requirements, and the requirements are submitting the curriculum map, submitting a review video for feedback, things like that. And so once they earn that score, then they're issued those credentials, and we can track those along the way. And we can see here that if we go into our pathways here, that the online learning design tool, oh, that's where I was, that we've awarded 16 badges overall across the Herberger Institute pilots. And right now our course development badges are the top earners right now, because we've got a lot of course developments coming through, and especially more recently, I think there's a map, oh yeah, a calendar. You can see that we've kicked up a lot of course developments right now in January and February, as people are realizing that they're not going to be able to teach on ground in the near future. So that's interesting to see that, and we're hoping that that continues. Moving forward, we're excited to kind of see how those credentials start to gain value across the units and across the university. We're hoping that other units will see those and give them some kind of value. And we're also looking to expand out our credentials into, we have another course which is right now called our Professional Development Community. We're going to rebrand that because our community is kind of moving into Slack, and this is going to be more of like Kody's an on-demand kind of modular training. And we're looking to add more things like Yellow Dig orientations, Zoom best practices, and things like that. So we hope to see how that continues to get traction, and looking forward to seeing how those other stakeholders start to utilize that, those directors, deans, colleges, or other schools. As we talked about yesterday, they're really the ones that add the value to the credential, so we're excited to see where that plays out. And that's all I got.
Thanks, Tim. You mentioned the self-enroll link, and Mary put the one to the Canvas Foundations in the chat. Can anyone enroll in the online design course?
No, that's
courses on
just
course?
for our internal course development process. But we do have our faculty development community and our Canvas foundations that we can allow anybody into.
All right. Any questions for Tim or Kody? Well,
I guess we covered it
I'm
pretty
sure
well.
there will be future questions. And you guys just did a great job. It's wonderful to see a cross span of getting students and traditional students in course programs, and you know, students like with the library across the programs, and then to also see how this can do, this can serve faculty and staff as well. It's really fantastic. I appreciate you all so much. And I'm going to share and show a little something real quick before we go into our breakouts, because something that kind of came up yesterday, and you might be thinking, seeing, okay, well, EdPlus and Kody has faculty professional development, and HIDA has faculty professional development, and anyone who does faculty professional development knows what you've got going on, right? And so is there a way to bring that all together? And that's something Pathways can help us to do, is if we have, and this can be in any area of learning. One of the elements of Pathways is you can set the required badges to be many different things and pull from many different places. So they don't just have to be badges that you create. You can, you also have access to add badges from the directory, from the badge rank directory, which is a collection of all the open badges. So if we, say, as ASU, wanted to make a faculty professional development, as an example, we could insert in the badges, the children, as Julie told us, you know, those that are from EdPlus and from HIDA and from CHS and that are from the library, so that wherever faculty is learning, they can learn in many different spots, but they can all be accredited and working towards a pathway. And this is also a way to pull in elements that are outside of ASU. So if you're collaborating with a partnership that is, you know, not necessarily, maybe it's an industry partner that offers badges, you can also pull those in as well. And you can set how many. So you can say, okay, you only need to do 1 of 3 of these to show that you have this element and that you've earned this required badge. So that's something, you know, as we were leaving yesterday in our breakout room session, we were talking about how we could pull these skills together into kind of like larger badges, how we can use this as a tool to collaborate. And this is just kind of the technical side of how that can be done. So I just wanted to share that.
So it's a bit of a choose your own adventure professional development.
Exactly, exactly. You get, if you're looking for, you know, elements of Canvas, well, I went to one 10-minute session from EdPlus, and then I got this module with HIDA, and altogether I am Canvas proficient. Of course, the LMS team. So, and this can also apply to students and programs and skills and outcomes like Mark and Katrina were mapping. So just something to think about, the possibilities. All right, so, oh, and thank you for sharing your slides in the chat. So we've got a shortened breakout room today, but I hope you have lots of ideas to be thinking and chatting about. I'll put the link to the breakout room doc in the chat, and then we will see you all in a little bit.
Benefit and a downfall.
That's awesome.
I think that'll be the next feature that Zoom adds.
You know, you
Dance
can
party?
get a llama for your meeting. You can hire a farm animal to come to your meeting and just join for fun for 10 minutes.
Yeah, but it's $100. I mean,
For
I'd
10
do a
minutes?
llama for 20. But a llama for 100's a lot.
I thought that was only for weddings.
I have 3 dogs.
I just need Zoom.
Wear a sweater.
Snap
I'll dress
camera
up like a
again
llama.
for
Maybe
Matt.
that's what we do tomorrow is all of us have to have our favorite animal on our lap, and then they can be.
Oh,
Yeah.
right.
That's right.
Mine will sing for you.
Okay,
Does
mine I've
sing?
been told is the cutest dog anyone has ever seen, so I'm just giving you warning.
Yeah,
that
watch
cannot
out.
be
The
possible
gauntlet's been
because I have
thrown.
that dog.
I think we've got a Friday competition on our hands, folks.
Bonnie's
Not the
dog.
cutest
Allison knows
animal.
I love a good Friday competition. Maybe the
Social
chicken will
distancing
come.
Smackdown.
Should everybody come with rating cards they can hold up during the?
That's right. That's right. Bring your own number card.
Yep.
Well, someone's
Right.
going to get a bath today if that's what we're going. That's what's going down. She's getting a bath.
We set up a voting poll in Zoom.
Warning.
I think it's
Julie
interesting
has
that we lose
a
half our
rabbit.
people after the breakout.
Well, maybe if there was a cute animal competition to come back to, we'd
Look
keep
at what they
people
missed out on.
around.
Come on.
Well, we will add this to the agenda for tomorrow. Wash your pets tonight. Everyone still here has a leg up on the competition. Get out your bows and hats and everything.
I don't think my cats would appreciate that. Let's just talk about washing cats, and I think that will go poorly.
You may or may not come tomorrow with a nose.
Or eyes, or
Yeah.
you know.
This is my Sheldon with his duck. I'm just warning you now of what the competition's going to be up to.
This is banded on St. Patrick's Day, so
Uh-huh.
It's
my
already
God.
begun.
It begins.
Thank you, everyone. I think we're
Yes.
at time. So
We are, and the form is in the chat. And thanks everybody for coming today. We'll see all your pets tomorrow, or plants too.
Yeah, I
Thanks,
do
guys.
notice we
Bring your
get
cutest
sillier toward the end of the week on Zoom. I don't know if anyone else has noticed that.
I thought yesterday was Friday.
Oh no.
And I transferred some questions that were in the chat over to the QA doc, but I didn't have the answers to all of them. So presenters, if you wouldn't mind answering questions that were put there that don't have answers, or revising answers that I just copy and pasted from the chat or answered improperly, no harm there.
Thanks, Mary.
All right. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.